I'm Michelle,
And I'm Katherine,
and we're here at the Healthy Hurried Human podcast.
where we talk about keeping pace in a world that never slows down.
Hi, Jena. I'd like to introduce you to Katherine and anyone who's listening. Jena and I go way back. She has been one of Foxygen's corporate executive clients for a while now. Um, so one of the things I'm not going to do to you today, Jena, is when you say something is do the like beeper. Be like, nah, that's not right. I'm not going to do that to you. Jenna's like,
Perfect. Thank you.
But I wanted Jena to come on to talk to us, Katherine, because Jena is, in my view, a guru powerhouse franchising queen. I've known her since she's been a VP. I'm going to let you kind of say where, if you want to say where you've done your work, but she is now a chief operating officer. And I want you to tell us a little bit more about what you've done and what you're doing now, Jena, before we kind of dive into some of our questions. Because today we're going to be talking about overextension and burnout. And specifically, I like that we're going to aim this sort of for women.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on. I think that and you'll see kind of as we talk a little bit today, I don't think anybody does anything alone. I think kind of leveraging all of the insights and listening and wherever leaders at whatever level get that from, whether it's podcasts like this, whether it's coaches, I'm a firm believer that we can all kind of be stronger when we leverage the strengths of those around us. So I have been in franchising really my whole career. Right after college, I'm an operations human at my core. I like the way things work. And I think that operations in any business, specifically restaurant franchising, is at the core of how the rest of the business works. And so I started in franchise ops right out of my undergrad, worked for the same company for almost 15 years, kind of learning all of the ropes in franchising and kind of every different aspect from legal to sales to marketing to real estate development. I've done a few kind of startups since then, and my new role is a group chief operating officer for a fund within a private equity firm that oversees 7 different franchise brands, and I will be responsible. At least as of today, as the brands grow, it may be a bit different, but as of today, I'll be responsible for 3 of those brands.
Wow.
So, one of the things I wanted to share with Katherine about Jena, I'm a big fan of Jena. She's been one of our clients for a while, and it's just always, I'm always impressed at just your tenacity and all the things juggle, Jena. You know this about yourself. You literally have the capacity, you have a huge capacity for so many things. But Katherine and I were watching another episode or other podcast recently where we heard a woman say something that has just stuck with me. And she said, real leadership is when you lend strength and not play or pull rank. Lend strength, don't pull rank. And I told Katherine, I said, no one demonstrates that better, in my opinion, than Jena Henderson. Because I've known you for years, I've worked with you as a client, and your stories and in franchising, because you go to store openings and I mean, heck, you run stores sometimes when there's not enough people there, but the stories you tell, and you're not even trying to bring attention to yourself, but Jena, you demonstrate that leadership because you are the first to roll your sleeves up and jump in because the need is there. And so that is just something I wanted Katherine to know and our listeners to know is um, you have you have an authority to talk about overextension, being burnout. You have that authority just because you're a human being. We all do, But you are a person who literally jumps in and you do so many different things. You wear a lot of different hats in a span of maybe 8 hours. So it's really impressive. So, my first question to you is how, over your couple of decades in leadership, um, have you seen signs of burnout, and how have you personally experienced
Um, Burnout's a big word,
it? Is
and I think
yeah.
that it is so different for everyone. And so first, let me say, years ago, I took some sort of brand leadership class, and they asked if we had a slogan that was kind of out there in the world that best represented us, what would it be? And mine was, I think it's Lexus, the relentless pursuit of perfection.
Mm,
And that is me, which is almost probably by definition what burnout looks like right before you hit it, right? So, like, I am a walking, talking human example of how it could be really easy to get burnout, right? I am a partner, I am a mother, I am an executive, I am a homeowner, kind of all of these things. And at the same time, my inner monologue is constantly pushing me to do more, is constantly pushing me to like achieve better, learn more. And for me, it's not necessarily about like title or rank or position. um, I love things I don't understand, so I dig into them harder. um, but there's only so many hours in the day.
that's right.
And so, how do I get all those things done? How do I achieve this relentless pursuit of perfection? Because I know I've only been on here for, the little ticker tells me, 7 minutes and 47 seconds, but everybody can probably already guess that failure isn't something that I love very much. So, how do I get all those things done and not burn out? And I'll answer your question first, which is like, what does burnout look like? It's not mental for me. I know that some people, like, they get distracted when they're burned out, they don't get as much done. For me, it's completely physical. I get exhausted. And so, one of the things, and obviously with the help of people like you, Michelle, I have learned over the years is to really listen to myself and to understand what my body is telling me that it's
Mm-hmm.
time to take a break. Um, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to stop my relentless pursuit of perfection. It doesn't mean that I have to go on vacation for 10 days, because for a lot of people, that's just not the way the world works for them. It does mean that I have to find ways to disconnect even for a moment. And so I do physical things to not be burnt out. I will move my laptop to a different place in the house. I will sit upstairs and watch TV for a couple of hours instead of downstairs, where I'm inclined to pop over to my desk or pick up my phone. And so I've learned over the years kind of what my shortcomings are in
Mm-hmm.
giving myself time and space to disconnect. And so I've learned to physically do those things to force it. Because otherwise I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. And not like, oh, I'm tired. If I get a little extra sleep tonight, I'll wake up tomorrow morning, have a lovely cup of coffee, and feel rejuvenated. It's like my body feels like something is sitting on top of it. And so it's been a real eye opening process for me over the years to say, how do I acknowledge that I can't get all of those things done unless I listen to my body when sometimes I'm pushing a little harder than it wants me to?
Okay. You know, um, I feel like that's a really good thing to point out, is that one, burnout is this really broad word and it can look different for so many people. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to add the word overextension, because that narrows it down just a little bit more. But you are correct. Paying attention to how does it hit you, because it doesn't hit everybody the same. That's a really, I thought that was a very good key point to point out. So my next question for you would be, every industry we Foxygen were this a term that everybody uses is industry agnostic with just about any industry. And so we have found in working in different industries that there's certain cultural things that that don't translate from industry to industry. And one of those is overextension. Katherine has the background in construction and right construction and electrical type things. And when she and I've talked about it, overextension looks different in that industry than it does, say, in legal and law firms. What does
Mhm.
overextension typically in the franchising world? And you've come up through the ranks in leadership of franchising, but you are somebody who has really connected with franchisee owners, and so you see it from there. So I'm kind of, could you speak to that? What does overextension look like in the cultural world of franchising?
So first, for listeners who don't know a lot about franchising, right? As the franchisor, we are not direct owners of their businesses. We are really the coach in a sense.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we provide systems and processes and guidance, and then they then put them in place in their individual locations, right? So there's, let's say you have a Duck Donuts down the street. The franchisor doesn't own the Duck Donuts, but we put the processes in place to help make them successful and consistent so that when you go to a Duck Donuts in Pennsylvania or one in North Carolina, they look and feel and sound the same. And so for me, I think the biggest overextension challenge or danger in franchising is about all access. Franchisees specifically in, we're talking about the hospitality business, so it's a 7-day a week business most of the time. They're open sometimes early morning if people are baking, it's late night if you have to work in the bar industry, and the franchisor is the lifeblood to those
Mm-hmm.
franchisees who are then the lifeblood to their employees. And so, this idea of all access was something that I struggled with, and candidly, I'll probably always struggle with um, in my career because I like them being able to pick up the phone. I used to say to a franchise prospect, we called them when they were thinking of joining a system, I used to say that, like, the FDD, the franchise document, that's all legalese. But what I wanted them to think about was when they walked up to the door in the morning and the key broke and two people called out and the toilet overflowed
Mm.
and the power went out and it was raining that day when they were supposed to have an event outside. I wanted them to ask themselves who would be on the other end of the line when they picked up the phone. Would we, as a franchisor, partner with them to solve what happens every day in the world of business? And that was what I told them to think of when they thought about making a decision about joining a franchise organization. And so I've taken it really seriously throughout my entire career. Like, you call me anytime. You think of something at 2 in the morning, pick up the phone. And so franchise relations has been a hallmark of mine, and so has lack of sleep. Um, and I've really tried to figure out over the years, and you said something earlier about something you had heard about leadership. And for me, the solution to a lot of these things is the people around me. And there is a key difference between delegating to those people and leading those people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so surrounding the brand, not just me, but surrounding the brand with people that share a common vision and want to pick up the phone, right? It doesn't always have to be the same person. It doesn't always have to be me. And so while the norm is this all access, because sometimes that's what it takes to build businesses, it doesn't have to be one person providing that all access.
I have to say, Catherine, that as I'm listening to Jenna talk, um, Jenna, you have to tell me if you agree with this statement. When I started working with Jenna 6 or 7 years ago to now, That's a big growth space for you, Jenna, because when I first started working with Jenna, Jenna did think it had to be her in the sense that she had to always be the one on the other end of the phone to now where you realize and you've grown into creating teams and that you are also willing to delegate and hand things off and that it doesn't always have to land on you. So I do think that that's a big growth area in your leadership that I've seen over the years. But I don't know that, I think that has to be a growth thing. I don't know if, especially people have the tenacity for perfection like you do. That is something they have to enter into and learn and develop it over time.
I
And
completely agree. I spent a lot of years in the like, I'll just do it myself mode, um, because I knew I had the vision for what I wanted. I knew what perfect looked like. I knew what was going to be right. And all of those things were true. But what I was missing was that if I shared that vision in such a way that wasn't just perform XYZ task, but hey, here's where we're going and here's why we're going there, and here's how we're going to get there, and here's how you play a role in that, then those people were running right alongside of me.
that's right.
And so it wasn't a function of I had to do it all on my own in order to get all the way to Bright.
I agree with that. Uh,
I'm sorry. I know I'm not adding much to the conversation, but I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by it. My brain's like churning. I used to work with an employee owned a company that was employee owned, and we'd go to ESOP conferences, and I ran into franchise groups there that were in the restaurant business that were ESOPs. And it can lend itself very easily to this dynamic if you have the support system that you're offering. I mean, I think it's, and I'm understanding why your burnout is physical exhaustion because if you have an all access and what you love is to pour into these franchises, then it's both, charging and depleting at the same time.
so let's talk about something that I know you've had to work the muscle on, and that's creating boundaries.
Mm,
Um, as she looks away.
Well, that and
yeah.
I'm still when Michelle says it's a place of growth for you to get to a place where you don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. And I would love to hear about how you have this, like, I love the idea of sharing the vision and people coming side and implementing because they know where you're going and they know what it's supposed to look like. How do you, like, I have a lot of questions that aren't on the list, but like how you got to that, because that's like the goal, right? Is so how do you, was it that they're all achieving your same level of perfection, or was the level of perfection that you had just for your own self?
I would say the level of perfection is certainly for my own self, although I am a firm believer in love what you do. And I don't mean like love it a little bit. I mean, if you're going to be the kind of person like that you said that pours into everything, right? That the brand color of my old company was orange. There is still something orange in every room of my house as a reminder. I know I love the color. As a reminder that the brand and my responsibility to that brand and its consumer community and my certainly fiduciary responsibility, that was always my North Star. And so that is the relentless pursuit of perfection for me. So, yes, it's
Mm,
all of my personal goals. But if I look at the overall health of the organization that I'm in as my North Star, then I simply cannot do it without all of those other people that I talked about. And so, if I find other people, and let's like be completely honest, it's not everyone, not everyone that I share this beautiful brand vision with is going to get it. Not everyone that I share it with is going to care. But if there are key players that do, we can achieve more because of it. And
mm-hmm,
that is what perfection looks like for me.
That's
mm-hmm.
great. That's really great.
So at for the healthy hurried human, the concept that we've built this on the whole first season, Jenna, the products that we have, and one of them is the wheel, the key functional indicator wheels. And I just want, as we're having this conversation, anyone who's kind of listening into this conversation, I want to point out that this is aligning with a number of things, because it can be real easy to say, well, how does to work with these key functional indicators, and it's emotional grounded. Being emotionally grounded makes you have this awareness to, like you said, your physical, how burnout and overextension affects your body, affects your mind, the emotional ground, daily self-parenting, creating those fences for ourselves to take care of ourselves, the positive self-growth. And I'm going to relate it to relationally thriving in a minute, but you're heading into a very new role in leadership, and you're going to have a lot of influence in creating what the culture is going to look like for employees and for franchisee owners. How do you want to shape that culture in taking care of, work ethic and time and employee wellness? How do you want to have that influence?
So first, I'm pushing hard on each of the brands to define what this common vision looks like,
Mm,
because I think it starts way back. I don't think we can expect anything out of teams if they don't know what the North Star is, if they don't know where we're headed. And so I'm saying before we get into, everybody wants to bring up the org chart. And okay, Jenna, look at the org chart, talk to the people, tell us now what. But I think it has to back up from there. You have to figure out where you're going, what the plan is to get you there. Strategy is like a warm blanket for me. So I
mm-hmm,
need a roadmap. Um, I am a combination, obviously I'm a high D on all of the tests and all of those things that you see, right? No one is shocked by this fact. But I've also been called a bit of an integrator. I've heard visionary before, but really my challenge in my career has been, how do I tie all those things together? I can close my eyes and see the vision almost instantly once I
Mhm.
connect with a brand. I know where I want it to go 5 years from now. And then it's my challenge to say, okay, what is the plan to get there? How are we going to do that? And then what are the components of that plan? Which the number one is who the people are.
mm,
And so for me, it is making sure the right people are on the bus. And this is a hard one that not a lot of people like to talk about.
making sure.
Um,
Mm-hmm,
you have to cut bait if it's not right, and you have to cut bait quick. And I don't mean don't work with people. I don't mean don't try and grow people. I do all of those things. But actually, I carry a card in my wallet that I made for myself and a CEO of mine years ago, because we had someone in our office and we just worked so hard to make them right because they had tenure and they were such a good human. And I'm wildly empathetic, right? I don't have a lot of those, like, I don't care about anyone as a female executive stereotypes that you see. That's not me. I love everybody. They're all my family. I mean it. I care about what happens to you outside of work. I want to be here about your day. That makes sometimes those decisions about the right people and the wrong people really difficult to make, because I lead with my heart. And sometimes that is in direct contradiction to the brand North Star, my fiduciary responsibility, all those things. So back to my story. So I carry this card around that I made. It's a gold card. It's like metal. It's shaped like a business card, and it says, "Sometimes the hardest decisions are the best ones to make." And I put the initials on there of some of the employees over the years that taught me that lesson, where I loved them as people, but they weren't the right person for the job. But because I loved them as a person, I kept them in the wrong seat on the bus for too long. And it was detrimental to the brand, to them.
mm-hmm.
It wasn't fair to them either, and me, because I ended up doing their work because I felt that. So it was this
Right.
really
That's right.
ugly all do it myself cycle. And I remind myself of it all the time because if you have a plan, I can't do it myself. I can't, despite like my younger hubris, right? That thought that I could do all the things for all the brands all the time. I can't do any of it myself. But it has to be the right people that kind of share the vision and want to work hard and share that same sort of passion for brand growth and the brand we're working on. And if we don't, we've got to find them because otherwise I can't move forward.
I think that you're giving some really great advice about really thank you so much for sharing your personal about development and personal positive self growth of saying these are my signs when I'm becoming exhausted, and to also emphasize to the people who are listening, burnout can look like different things to different people, and the solutions can be different things for different people. And thank you for sharing that because it's making me think through that. I recently was talking with someone about values, and one of the value systems in my personal family was we don't have is how to identify stress. It's like, oh, that's a mental thing, you just get over it type of thing. But I'm learning that stress takes on a physical component and has, and to look at a project or a task and say, what's the stress load that's going to cause, and can we afford that right now, was just not
Mm-hmm.
something we did. But when you're talking about this of, oh, I feel this physically, I think that's great for our listeners to identify that boundaries or burnout looks different in different people, because what you're describing as a job of a franchisor could sound exhausting to some people, and they would burn out very quickly, which is why over the years you've learned that it's very important to hire the right person that has that same drive and passion for it,
Mm-hmm.
because then they're not going to burn out on these things and fueling for them. And having a
Mm-hmm.
vision, having a very clear vision for people to be able to
Mm-hmm.
follow is
Mm-hmm.
so important, because you're not hand holding them along the way. It's here's our North Star. Let's kind of move towards that. And I think it's great to have, especially when you're having multiple brands that all have a similar vision. We did that one time with my former company. We had 3 different sister companies, and all of them wanted to tie in to one similar component or aspect of it. And it was really hard to kind of figure that out for us, kind of like what was that with these 3 brands. So it's a very important, but it's also because I think you said it earlier, this is how I make my decisions. And you
Mm-hmm.
brand your own home as a reminder of the not just the fiduciary responsibility, but the responsibility to the people that are your clients, but also the customers, the consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And having it makes it simple. Does this align with our brand and our vision and where we're going? Yes or no?
Yeah, having a North Star.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
right. It makes the flow chart as simple as possible as you can do. And then there's another stress level that doesn't cause burnout, because you don't have to, you know,
Juggle. Yeah.
yeah, or debate over questions or decisions. And
Agreed.
honestly, having a heart like you are describing for your own people and learning this is, again, emotionally thriving, relationally thriving, and but to also learn the best decision for them. Because if you put a wrong hire, can also cause burnout in them. It's not good for them either.
Agreed.
Yeah, I really that I think that is a really good point. I get a little people hear that and they're like, yes, I'm actually making this decision because it's best for them. It's like, get out of here with that. This is what's best for the brand. However, I do think that when you have leadership in place who says, I am like your heart, Jenna, which is I have responsibilities to the brand, I have responsibilities to the rest of the team, but to that person, and we see it all the time, people in the wrong spot, they're really going through a lot of mental and emotional distress because they feel that level of I'm not I'm not up. I'm not handling this. I'm not doing it. I'm not bringing it to
Mm-hmm.
the team. And that is very tiresome. So when we can make that decision to say, look, this is not the place for you, you're releasing them, I think, to be their better self. Um, Jenna, I've told you this over the years because you are a bit of a unicorn, in my opinion, because I think very
Mm-hmm.
highly of you. But I'm a visionary. You're a visionary, but so rarely do you find visionaries who are also detail oriented
Mm.
or who can find the details. And you are,
Mm-hmm.
it's
can
incredibly,
can write the path, can
yes,
make the I loved what you said about, sorry, I'm a note taker, it's how I process that. You said strategy is a warm blanket for you.
Mm-hmm.
i
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I mean, I love that, and the fact that you're able to kind of write the roadmap.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's you, and I know you know this about yourself because we've all worked for enough bosses and leaders, and we've seen, at this place in our life, we've seen enough to know. And I'm like, yep, Jenna is a bit of a unicorn. I wish I had the same horn, but I don't. um, but one last question, and we're gonna tie it up
Are you going
here.
to do this one?
Yep.
Okay, good.
So,
I wanted to hear this answer.
you know, I think a lot of leaders would say that overextension is kind of, even if they're not going to admit it, they feel this or they think it. It's a badge of honor to
Mm-hmm.
really overextend.
Mhm.
What would be your advice to other leaders who are possibly listening that think that way, even if they won't say it out, outspokenly? What do you say to a leader to say, look, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to put some fences around what you're doing, because you've obviously learned that, because like we said, that growth area for you where you thought there was a time where it had to be you all the time, 100%, to I know I can develop a team. What would you say to a leader who's thinking it's a badge of honor, one, to be overextended, and who might be afraid that it's going to reflect poorly on them for them to slow down or to create, I'm gonna say, instead of boundaries, just some good healthy fences?
Fair. I think I'd answer it in a couple ways, right? To the future leaders, and I'm going to talk about people that share the same kind of
Mm-hmm.
inner pursuit for perfection, right? Because I also think what that success looks like is different for everyone. So I will say to people who want to get there, yeah, run really hard. Um, I ran really hard in the beginning of my career. I did. I was the one who stayed late. I did it. And candidly, I would do all those things all over again, kind of as I was coming up. Not
That's
in an
fair.
effort to say I stayed the longest. I ran the hardest. Although in those moments it may have felt like that. What I would say is it because I learned the most over that
Mm,
period of time. I was the one that said, nope, I don't know how to do it, but give it to me and give me a minute. And if that meant working a little harder to learn something new for myself, then for that reason, it was worth it. It wasn't staying late just to say, I punched a clock. I was the last one to leave the office today.
mm-hmm.
It was saying, I'm staying late because I'm teaching myself something new, because I'm making myself more valuable to the company, because I'm contributing to this overall strategy that I wasn't yet shaping myself. And so I'm in full support of those things. On the other side, listen to your body, right? Like, don't be crazy. Don't sleep only 2 hours a day, right? Nobody wants that to happen. But I think it's okay to say, I will go above and beyond in my quest to continue to be a better version of myself professionally. Um, and then to me now, right? To the leaders now, kind of saying, how do I not be the last one to leave the office? I think it's just about leading. I think it's about finding the right people around you and recognizing that you can't do all of those things alone. Um, have a vision, have a strategy, share it with others, and then surround yourself with people who you can pass on that zest for learning to,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can grow together. I don't think that going fast always means you achieve more. I don't think that working longer hours always means that you get more things done. The idea is, how do you build a team, whether it's one or 100 or outsourced vendors, right? For years, I had my dry cleaning picked up and dropped off at my house. And it felt like this really silly expense, but I was a leader. I was getting my MBA. I was doing like all of these crazy things at once. My personal life was like a bit nutty. And I thought, what are the things that I can cut out? Because I want to give more to these things over here. And I'm acknowledging that there's literally so many hours in the day. And so when I say lead, I mean all of it. Look at the whole thing holistically and find ways around you that you can achieve more things without doing them all yourself.
Do we have time for me to ask one quick follow-up question?
Yeah.
Okay, so many people that we meet in the younger generations are not willing to give that much to a company that you described in the beginning. They don't want to be the last one, and they are saying everything you challenge people to do, they're internalizing it as being taken advantage of.
Yep.
Oh, this is good. This is getting into a whole
Yeah,
different episode, but I'm like, I want to hear
how would
your
you
take on
I
this.
know
would
we
you
could talk about this all day.
would you still give them that same advice? Because I know the wisdom in what you're saying, because I've seen it. But
We've
I
been
would like
there.
to know. But I know what my answer is. But I would love to hear. Would you give that, if someone says, "Yeah, but they're taking advantage of me. They're making money, and I'm not seeing the money," or how would you address that?
I think there's my like what I say to myself in the shower when I think about some of those things, right? Because that is very different. That is, I'm like, stop it. Nobody's taking advantage. Now, look, are there people out there that like take advantage of people that want to work harder, learn more, give more to grow? 100%. I've met them. They've taken advantage. So trust me when I say they exist. Um, but here's what I will say. You as a emerging leader in any field are not simply going to have the world handed to you. You are not simply going to be better because you want to be. You will not be stronger, smarter, more well-rounded just because you say it's so. Does that mean that you have to do things that that break your boundaries and make you uncomfortable? Maybe not. Maybe what it is you challenge yourself to learn more in the work hours, that you use technology, or you listen to podcasts, or you leverage people around you that you have a conversation about, over the dinner table, where you're growing in a different way. I rebel against this idea that you can do the bare minimum and then someday turn around and say, look how much I've grown.
Yeah.
I
Very good.
completely reject that idea. But that doesn't mean that you have to give up your home life. It doesn't mean that you have no social life if you want to grow. It doesn't mean that you can't get married, have children, get a dog, own a goldfish, go shopping, have a hobby. You can have all of those things. And I say that because I have all of those things. I have hobbies and a partner that I love and children that are well-rounded that I take care of. I have a beautiful home, and it came from a lot of hard work and a lot of, personal self-reflection and growth. And was there some sacrifice along the way? Absolutely. And I would do all of it again if you asked me today. And so what I would challenge people to do is say, okay, fine. You don't want to stay late? Don't stay late. Figure out another way to do it, though.
That's right. Figure out another way. There's only one way, and it's through. We're laughing because somebody has decided to drill a hole in a wall somewhere nearby. We don't know if you can hear it, but
oh, I can't. All right.
Oh, good.
Well, good. Jena, we have run out of time, but I just hope everybody sees and knows what I have known for so long about you, that you are a powerhouse unicorn, and I'm a big fan of you, and you do pretty much everything you do with perfection. So thank you for joining us. We have really enjoyed having you. And
I really thank you for being a guest to kind of bring to life examples, true life examples, and sharing your lived experience so that we can share with others. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you both so
was
much
nice to
for
meet
having
you.
me on. It was a pleasure. Yeah, it was nice to meet you as well. And Michelle, as always, I will attribute so much of who I am today as a human, as a mother, as a partner, as a professional, to kind of the guidance you've given. So it has been my honor to be here and kind of help pass this along to others.
you're very kind. Thank you, Jena. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.
The Healthy Hurried Human podcast is presented by Foxygen Consulting. At Foxygen, we provide business and performance psychology and consulting. We believe healthier people make a healthier workplace. Foxygen Consulting, breathing new life into your organization.